All right, here we are. Today is a special edition in tribute to Dell Shannon. This year marks 60 years since Dell recorded and released his big breakthrough hit, Runaway. And so on the line we have his first wife, Shirley Westover, and his son, Craig Westover. They were very generous with their time and sharing memories that span back to the 50s, their early days in Michigan, and then they moved sometime in the 60s to California. And all the while, Dell was kind of becoming a bigger star and releasing these now iconic songs. So it was a great pleasure talking with them. And it's funny, you hear when you talk to them, he's not Dell, he's Charles or Chuck, which is his real name. Dell Shannon's kind of his rock and roll persona. But Charles Westover is the guy that we talk about today. And we get into when he was in the service, how he met Max Crook. Max Crook was the man who laid down that terrific weird keyboard line in Runaway. They just wrote that on a whim in Battle Creek at some small club. So it's a very interesting story to hear how this kind of very organically happened for Dell Shannon. So have a listen. Check it out. Here is Shirley and Craig Westover talking about the late, great Dell Shannon.
Wishing you were here by me to end this misery. I wonder, wonder why.
We'll just get started. I know that Shirley, your introduction to Dell, if I remember correctly, was you were 15 years old. Can you kind of like go back in time and tell me how you first encountered Dell when you were 15 in Coopersville?
Yes, I was I was walking to work. I lived about 3 blocks away at my brother's, and he approached me and asked me if I would go out, and I wouldn't go. And anyway, and then finally, one night he asked me to go to. This was a few weeks later. He asked me to go see Gone with the Wind, and I really wanted to see that movie. But I was living with my brother, and he was very protective. So he told I could go to the movie, but I had to go with another friend. But anyway, so
right.
Chuck was there, and he came over and asked for an introduction from the friend that I was with. And anyway, that's how we met.
Right. So he basically just saw you walking down the road and kind of pulled up and said,
yeah.
Hey. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were living with your brother at the time, and then
I was, yeah.
And so did you wind up, and this is in Coopersville, Michigan, which is
right.
kind of West Michigan area, and then you wound up staying with your brother. Was that just because you had met Dell and you started dating? Is that why you stayed living with your brother?
No, my father had died.
Oh,
and,
okay.
Yeah, and so I moved with my brother to go to work.
Okay, gotcha. And you were you're walking to a diner. Isn't that where you worked at the
yes.
time? Right. And so
yes.
where was Dell working at the time? And you were 15 and he was about 17, correct?
Yes. Gosh, I'm not even sure he was working.
Right. So, yeah, well, he would have been was he still in high school or fresh out of high school at that time?
Oh my God! No, he was out of high school.
Okay, so he just graduated, probably.
Boy, you're making me go back 60 years.
Right. Yeah, and I know that eventually, soon after that, he was working at a factory or something like that. Correct?
Yes, he did work in a factory in Fruitport.
Okay, gotcha.
But he did not like that. He didn't really like working for other people.
Yeah, hence
he kind of
hence his future career. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And then so you're living with your brother, and then how was your family with Dell?
Yeah, my mother had met him. She wasn't sure because, we were farmers, and he was a city boy and everything. But after we were married, and my mother always really liked him because he was awfully good to her. And he always came to see her, even after we were divorced. years later, he always went to see my mom.
Right, yeah. So they got along really well. And didn't you tell me that...
Yeah, they got along real good.
Didn't Dell, he would come over and play guitar and, like, talk country music
At
with your
my
brother?
brother's.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would go to my brother's all the time and play, and I wasn't too encouraged with that.
Right.
My brother loved country music, and so he would bring his guitar and sing all kinds of country music at his house. And, I just kind of, oh, okay.
What kind of music were you into at that time?
Oh, I liked all music. I think probably, Frank Sinatra.
The pop stuff. Yeah, not so much the country stuff. Gotcha.
Easy listening. And ballads. I loved ballads.
Yeah. Well, when's the first time you remember hearing Dell play his guitar and sing? Do you recall that?
Well, that was when I was 15, because he would come to my brother's and sing.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so that was your first introduction, was watching him at your brother's house.
I think that was part of the charm.
Right, yeah, I bet. And so, back then, you said that Dell was kind of like a city boy.
Yeah.
How was he as far as going to school? Was he into sports and hunting and that stuff, or what type of a guy was he?
No, he never hunted, and he did not like sports. He would rather take his guitar to the locker room and sing to the kids.
Right. And he never stopped doing that. I understand.
No,
he
never
had his guitar.
stopped it.
Right.
Yeah. But he was never, years later, he got into football, but he was never a big sports fan.
Right, and you guys would go to like Dodger games and stuff once you're in California.
Yes,
right?
we did, yeah.
Yeah. I remember the great stories you both told me about being out in just random places or driving down the road even, and Dell would be playing his guitar.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Yeah, so you guys are dating, you're in Coopersville. What eventually made you take the next step, and when was that you moved to the trailer in Battle Creek? Is that your next step after that?
No, we were he was in the service, and I went to Germany.
Oh, right, yeah.
This was after we were married, and we got married at 17. He was 19.
And what year was that? Was that 56 or so, or 54?
54.
Okay.
Or was it 53? I don't know.
Right, but it's one of the... So, were you married before or after he went to the service then? Was it right before he went?
Before.
Okay. And then, man, Germany, that's a big move, huh?
Yeah, it sure was.
And so what do you recall most about that? Was he pretty busy working a lot, or what's your most vivid memories?
He was in special services. He played his guitar and went from bass to bass and sang and, played the guitar.
Okay. And you said he was in a band called the Blue Flames at that time?
Right.
Right. So that was kind of his first introduction into performing live then, I would assume.
Yeah, I would... Let me go back. Yeah, I would think so there.
Right. And so how long were you in Germany for?
We were there 18 months.
Wow. Okay. What did Dell think of it? Did he like it, or was he ready to come home?
He didn't like the service.
More people telling him what to do, huh?
Yeah. He didn't really care for that, but
yeah. Well,
anyway.
So then you flew back and you came back to Michigan, correct?
We didn't fly back. We came back on a Navy ship.
Oh wow, that's a long haul.
Unbelievable. In January, if you can imagine, crossing the Atlantic.
Not quite a Caribbean cruise, huh?
No, not at all.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was 2 months pregnant then.
Okay, and so that would be...
And sick all the way across.
Okay, was that with Craig?
Yes.
Okay, so wow, Craig started out on tour.
That would be me.
on world tour.
Right.
So you come back and you're a young family by the time you get back, or pretty soon after.
Yeah, after.
All right. And so did you ever go back to Coopersville, or did you go straight to Battle Creek at that point?
Well, I don't remember.
Right.
I'm sorry. We probably stayed with his parents for a short time.
Okay.
When we came back, yeah.
Yeah. So how did Dell get along with his parents?
Well, I guess like most kids, they got along good.
Right.
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah, and his dad, where did his dad work? He worked for the city or
His
something?
dad worked for the county commission. He drove truck.
Okay, and like would plow snow and all that?
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, so I'm sure his parents were a little baffled when Dell started getting more into...
Yeah, they were.
Right.
They were.
And so you get back, and then eventually you wind up in... What took you to Battle Creek then from that area?
Well, when he got out of the Army, he couldn't get a job. And so he decided to re-enlist. So they told him if he went into the branches service, he would choose where he wanted to go. So he went into the Air Force for a short time. And then he chose Fort Custer, which is just outside of Battle Creek.
Wow, well, that's pretty close. Yeah, so that worked out
Yeah,
pretty
it
well.
was very close.
Right, and so around that time, you guys move into a trailer over in Battle Creek.
Right.
He's doing work with the Air Force at that time?
He was, yes.
Okay.
And then he was moonlighting and playing his guitar at night with a group in Battle Creek.
Okay, and at that time, you were working at an airport, correct? Doing like bookkeeping?
Yes.
So you were busy. All of you were busy.
No, I was an airline reservation.
Airline reservation, that's what it was.
Reservationist.
Right, and from what I remember, didn't you have to get up real early and then have to go in?
To open the office, yeah.
And that's with a new baby, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so you were busy. I mean, he's working, he's playing shows, you're driving into work, dropping him off at the babysitter. How long did that all last for in Battle Creek?
Well, I stayed at that job until I then became pregnant for Kim. Craig was 3 years old, and I became pregnant for my second child, and then I had to leave because we had to wear uniforms. And when I got, was starting to show, they'd let me work reservations, but I couldn't go to the ticket counter.
Wow. Different times, yeah.
Yeah, very different.
Right. And so Dell's out playing in the evenings at bars and stuff like that. Was he getting paid some decent money for that, given the time at least?
Oh, it helped. I can't say it was decent.
Right, yeah. That'd be pushing it. That'd be pushing it a little bit.
No, yeah.
So he was just more so like cutting his teeth and kind of testing the waters to see if that was something he could do.
Right.
Gotcha. And so is that around the time he met Max Crook?
I'm not sure because he and Max played at some of the local clubs around, but I don't know if that was before or after the high-low.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Rich. I wish I had.
I think it was before, and they played at Daisy Mays.
Yes, they did.
They snuck out of work and played Daisy Mays.
Okay. Craig seems to recall it was before.
Okay, gotcha.
Because he went right from the high-low to New York to record. So, yeah, it probably was before.
Right. And so when the trip to New York, that was to record Runaway. And that was a song they wrote on stage. Him and Max kind of, at least the legend is they wrote that on stage.
They did.
Okay, that's
Max was kind of playing around with his Musitron, and he hit a note. And Chuck said, hit that again. And he started into Runaway.
Wow.
It was written pretty much on stage.
Yeah, that's amazing that there's that sort of rock and roll history existing in Battle Creek. I'm from Michigan, so I know the area. It's just really amazing. It's something that you wouldn't expect would have happened right here in Michigan, and it's really cool. So how did that whole trip to New York come about? I remember, did he get discovered in Ann Arbor or something like that? I think you told me that...
Ollie McLaughlin was from Ann Arbor.
Right.
And he heard Chuck sing at a club. I don't know where it was. But, see, I really was not a part of his music because I was busy and I had kids and
not out at the bars.
I pretty much stayed at home.
Right.
And I think maybe Ollie got word about him. I don't know, and came down to see him, and that was pretty much the birth of Dell.
Wow. So word had gotten around. Hey, this Dell guy's writing some good songs. He hears Runaway, and money signs go off. And next thing you know, you're all in a car. Baby Craig is at home, though. Of course, he was probably left with Dell's mother, I would assume, or somebody.
Right.
And you guys are road tripping across the country from Michigan to New York. And what do you recall most about that trip?
Freezing.
No heater.
No heater. We had a 57 Plymouth, and we did not have a heater in it. And Chuck liked his cigars, and Max can't stand cigarette smoke, well, let alone cigars. And we had to put a window down often, and it was freezing. It was in January.
So that's a long trip.
It was a long trip to New York from Michigan, for sure.
Wow, yeah. And so once you got to New York, so is Max Crook and his girlfriend or wife was with him, correct?
His wife.
Okay.
Yeah, they were married as well.
Right. So when you guys got there, did they just go to the studio on their own and you two kind of just hung out, or did you go to the studio?
No. I very rarely went to the studios.
Okay. And so but they went and they recorded Runaway. This is 1961. You come back, and then by this time you're pregnant again with your next child, correct? Isn't that the timeline, how that worked?
Yeah, that was the third child.
Right. So now Dell's got some kids to feed, and luckily he cut a hit just in time. Right. So you come back to Battle Creek, and the guy who wrote Runaway, one of the most popular rock songs ever, comes home, and you guys are at your trailer house right here in Michigan. And how long after that did you decide, hey, Battle Creek maybe isn't the rock and roll central? Let's go someplace else.
Well, that was pretty much his manager. He kind of pushed things forward and told us we had to be in a house, and just kind of. I don't know. I didn't really care for all that because I was a very humble person, and to tell us, we had to move into a big house, and you got to have a mink coat, and your babies have to have this and that, and I was very upset about all that.
Right.
But he did get us into our first home in Southfield.
Okay.
Michigan.
And this was 61 too, right? Or 60?
Yes.
Okay.
Jody was born in October of 61, and can't remember now when we moved into the house, but I think she was a new baby when we moved into it.
Okay. And so you're in the Detroit area. Southfield's like a Detroit suburb. And then you stayed there for around 3 years or so. And in that time, he was cutting more hits, right? I mean, he kept recording and all that.
He kept recording, yeah.
Yeah, so where would he go to record at that time? Do you recall? I mean, would he have to travel to New York and stuff, or was he looking for places?
I'm sure it was New York.
Wow. So he was probably out a lot during that time?
Yes.
Okay. And then right, and then his fan base starts bubbling up. I mean, he's playing all across the world and performing. And didn't you say that you guys had some weird little stalker that would come over and stand in front of your sidewalk?
She would walk back and forth and stalk our house.
I was 4 and I still remember her.
Yeah, that's scary. But I mean, that's like the world of a celebrity. You have people coming at you from all angles.
It was scary for me because I was alone most of the time and with the children, and just you had to keep a big eye on them.
Right. Yeah, and so you're in Southfield for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Dell keeps recording. Yeah. You're busy raising a house full of kids. And so then what took you to California? And I think it was like 64, 65, somewhere around in there.
Let's see. Kim started kindergarten in California. So she would have been 5 probably. So she was born in 61, 60. Yeah, about 64, I suppose.
Okay.
65 maybe it was. I don't remember.
Right. Were you comfortable with moving from Michigan all the way over to the West Coast?
Yeah, I had been to California before, and I loved it here or there, and so I just thought, well, and the music industry was moving to California a lot, so we took off for California.
Wow. And so Van Nuys, is that where you ended up?
Yes.
Okay. And then once you got there, Craig was probably, I mean, how old were you, Craig, when you got there?
I think I was, we left when I was
Well, Kim went to
I would say
kindergarten.
8. I would say 8.
I would think around 8, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's 3 years older than Kim. So.
Okay, yeah. So right around 8 is Craig.
Yeah.
And is this when you first have your first real memories of your dad performing music? I mean, do you remember the first time you realized that your dad is a musician?
Oh no, he kept it pretty well. I mean, I knew he played the guitar every day, and they had people over at the garage and everything. But we never. I think of the first time I saw it was like when he was on Ed Sullivan or something, and I was like, "Hey, there's Dad." Something like that.
It wasn't. It was American Bandstand.
American Bandstand.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
So I
So
was like, "Oh,
yeah, that's not normal. That's not everyone's.
right."
Well, we did not want. We kept our kids from his business as much as we could.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
but your dad's out, there's photos of him with the Beatles and all these people. I think there's, Roy Orbison or whoever. I mean, he was out, and he had a lot of very famous fans too. All these rock bands looked up to Dell. And yet, from what you say, like, he was totally just a normal dad. When he was around, you wouldn't have picked up on.
When he would come home, he just wanted to be Dad. He did not want celebrities around. It was quite a while, and then Brian Hyland came and stayed with us.
Wow, cool.
But they were just in his office playing guitars and writing and whatever. The kids just had a normal childhood.
Yeah, they were just like Dad's friends,
Yeah.
like any other family, like Tommy Boyce and Bobby Hart. And, I met Jeff Lynne and Tom Petty, and it was just part of normal life.
Right.
Like Uncle Joe or whatever. Yeah.
Right. And then I remember you telling me that Dell was working on a record in the home studio, which was like right up the hall from your bedroom. Is that correct, Craig?
Yeah, that's right.
Which
Yeah.
one is that, the Liberty Years?
In both Liberty Years, yeah. They went through my bedroom to use the bathroom.
Wow.
Well, no, it was down the hall. They didn't go
Well, it
through
was
your
right
bedroom.
there.
Right, yeah.
But wow,
So,
I
yeah.
mean, that's so crazy that, that's happening up, your bedroom is, rock and roll history happening up the hall.
Right.
That's not a normal.
Right, and I'm trying to go to bed to go to school.
Yeah. Then they're over there making some ruckus.
Well,
And-
we had it as soundproof as we could get it.
Right,
Yeah.
I bet. Yeah. You told me before that, when you got out to California, that was the first time that you remember Dell telling you that that's when he first started smoking pot. Do you think that had anything to do with, he kind of started going towards the later 60s, recording some more psychedelic influenced records like Further Adventures of, and some of the stuff on Home and Away's a little bit more progressive musically. Do you think any of that had anything to do with each other?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure it did.
Yeah, I think it was just a sign of the times, too.
Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause-
Meeting the Monkees and, hanging out with the Monkees and all those guys. And,
He and Bobby and Tommy were very close friends, and a lot of the guys, they used to come to our house, and I didn't even realize they were smoking dope.
Right. You're like, oh, those cigarettes smell funny. Right.
Well, they weren't around us. They were in his den, and I kept the children away from
Oh, okay.
there.
So he had his little hangout area then.
He had his own, his man cave.
Right. And so how often was he writing songs during that time? Would he have just periods where he wouldn't write and then he would write?
No, he was always thinking. Always, he'd wake up in the middle of the night and write down lyrics and things. He couldn't really turn it off.
Right. And so when he'd get back from like a tour or something like that, I get the sensation he's probably not the guy who would say, okay, well, this happened, and he would just kind of tell you all about it. Would he just kind of come home and then just leave that
He
stuff
tried
behind?
to leave the music business away from the home.
Right.
He would get home, and he just wanted. I would say, let's go to a movie, or let's go out to dinner or something, and he'd say, I'd rather not. I just want a home cooked meal.
Yeah.
Because
He just had to eat at,
he
restaurants.
was always eating in restaurants. Yeah,
Most
he
definitely.
didn't. Yeah, so when he got home, he didn't want that, that life.
Right. When about do you remember, and we spoke a little about this last time, and Dell openly spoke about this. Was this around the time that he started his problem with alcohol? Was it when you were in California around this time?
Yeah, he didn't drink when we were going together and when we were first married. He never drank. I was always told that alcoholism is a lonely disease, and many times I would travel with him, and it seemed like when he'd get off stage, he had such a rush. He was so hyper, he could not settle down, and so then he'd go to the bar and drink.
Right.
And and it got progressively worse.
So at first he was doing it just to sort of decompress after a show and bring down that adrenaline that you have.
I would think so, yeah. That was before he was really doing a lot of drugs.
Right. When did you start realizing that, hey, this is like a problem? Before the 70s even? Was this in the 60s?
I can't really put a finger on a date.
Right.
But I know it got to the point where his managers in England would say they wanted to book him, but Shirley had to go with him.
So you had to go along and kind of babysit almost, or make sure he gets to it. Make sure he gets from.
Make sure he was okay till he got off stage.
Right.
And then I would just go to bed, and he would go to the bars.
Right.
Because I was exhausted, yeah.
Yeah, so that's too bad. I mean, it probably had a lot to do with his schedule and just being a traveling guy, And
I'm sure.
And then before you know it becomes a problem. But I mean, he was still doing well. I mean, he still was being productive in recording. It's really strange how some people can be going through such a struggle, but still be able to record such great music. Because, I wouldn't have known it unless the way I found out about it was hearing an interview with Dell where he talked about it. And I was like, wow, I would have never guessed that by listening to his catalog.
Oh, yeah.
There's no decline in quality. All of it's good. So, there's no indication that he had any sort of a struggle with that. But, eventually he wound up getting into recovery and stuff like that. But what was the breaking point of him going, okay, I should probably go to AA classes? Do you recall what kind of pushed him over the edge?
I did.
Okay.
I was leaving him.
Oh, you're going to leave him?
Yeah, I had looked for a job, and I was thinking of getting an apartment, and just, near where we lived so that the kids could stay in their school and everything. And I told him that I could not live that way any longer, and he admitted himself into the hospital within a couple days after that.
Wow! So he at least listened to you then. That's a good.
Yeah. Well, I think he was beginning to realize that he was in trouble.
Right. So, and then after that, he took that fairly seriously. I remember you saying that...
very seriously.
Aside from his musician friends, you said that some of his AA friends were some of his tightest buddies.
They were. They really were. That became his family. Yeah. And they saved him.
Yeah.
But the sad part of it was he was sober for 12 years. And again, he would come home, and I would say, "Let's do something," and he'd know, I can't. AA comes first. I have to put you second. And I said, well, that's the way it was when you were drinking. I always came second.
Right.
And it just, I think that, because he was such an addictive personality, he put down the bottle, but he picked up the AA Bible.
Right.
Tommy Boyce wrote a song about that. I don't know if you've ever heard it.
Right. No, I haven't, but I'll check it out. But I know friends who've went through it, and it's like, it's part of the addiction. Yeah, it's like a supplement for it.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Right, but it's probably a good thing though, because there's nice drunks and then there's mean drunks. What do you recall about when Dell was drinking? What kind of a guy was he?
He could be mean.
Yeah, right. after Dell gets out of the recovery and all that stuff, and, he's playing music and all that stuff, did he find more time to hang out with the kids and stuff around that time as well? I mean, how was home life after all that stuff happened? After, he kind of put away the bottle?
I don't know. Craig, can you answer that?
Yeah, I got sober in 1988. He was in Iowa. He was doing the show in Iowa, and I had my issues with alcohol and drugs, and I took myself to where I knew he went, just because that was the only place I knew.
Right.
And we hung out a lot.
Right. And yeah, I mean, you could probably commiserate a little bit. I remember, didn't you tell me that at one point you and your daughter went on a little like fishing trip with your dad or something like that? Kind of.
I went with him up to Big Bear, and I was still indulging, but he was sober, and he goes, "Come on, I want to take you fishing." And I said, "All right, great. Let's go fishing." So we rented a boat and got in, and I fished, and he played the guitar.
Right. So
the whole day.
You're fishing, and he's playing the guitar, scaring all the fish away, but or serenading them.
Are you gonna fish? And he's like, "Nah, I'm good."
Right. See, and I told you last time, and I'll tell you again, you should have been rolling some tapes so you could have had the fishing sessions with Dell Shannon.
Yeah, hindsight's 20/20
right.
for sure.
I know. Yes, back in the day, Dell was just sitting around the house playing. I mean, there wasn't iPhones, and you couldn't just record every little thing that you did. I imagine he was probably doing some amazing stuff. And I remember last time we talked, Shirley, you told me that by the time records would come out, those songs were old to you. You'd already heard them, And I'm just sitting here like a geek thinking, man, I wish those tapes existed of just him playing in his living room,
Oh, that'd be great, yeah.
Yeah, there's those Buddy Holly. I don't know if you've ever heard the Buddy Holly apartment tapes.
Aren't a lot of those tapes still in the archives?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of
it's all reel to reel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would probably have to be transferred to
Oh, wow.
They did that with the Dublin session.
Right.
They went and remixed it and remastered it and did it all, but those were from 1972. Those songs were written.
Wow. Yeah, and there's not an era of Dell stuff that I don't like. There's very few people where I just I can listen to anything, even if it's like, oh, wow, Hank Williams covers. Normally, I'm like, yeah, covers, but it's, he makes it interesting. So, that'd be great. So,
he loved country music. He loved it.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, when he wrote Runaway, I liked Jody because I love ballads.
Right.
So I had a hard time. I thought, gee, Runaway, that's never going to do anything. my mistake.
Yeah, now it's the song that it'll live forever.
We hear it all the time we run our music through the TV, and it comes on a lot.
Yeah, and I just for the local paper here, I just wrote up a little story about discovering Dell when I was a kid in the 80s, listening to oldies radio, and it's still one of those things where anytime I get a chance to say, hey, listen to Dell and listen to his later stuff, and it's one of those catalogs you can't miss. And then I know that lately, Craig, you've been working on, this year, obviously it's a lost year and nothing was able to happen, but you were going to do a Dell tribute show in Battle Creek, Michigan in June, but that didn't end up being able to happen. So do you foresee that perhaps happening next? I mean, next year would be great.
We're shooting for this year, June 2021.
Okay, great.
We're going to induct it into the museum in Battle Creek and all the stuff we have. And there was going to be a show, but I haven't heard anything because I know everyone's still shut down. But we're shooting for it.
Okay, great. Well, obviously, when that comes up, get in touch because I'll help spread the word around here. And
absolutely, that'd be great.
Right, and I kind of like the idea of the new direction. I always thought it was cool they had the Dell Shannon's thing in Coopersville, but I'm not a big car guy because I can't afford nice cars. So I think having something more involving Dell in Battle Creek would be a lot cooler. No offense, against the car show, but.
Battle Creek is where Dell Shannon was born, really, at the High-Low Club.
Yeah.
And that's what I always said. But,
Dell was not born in Coopersville. He moved there as a child. His parents did, as a baby. But he was born in Grand Rapids.
Right.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, I mean, Battle Creek is, like you said, where he kind of went from being Charles or Chuck and kind
Right.
of, turned into Dell.
That was the big transition.
Turned into Dell. Other than, I know that your family's still really close-knit and stuff. Does Dell still have any of his side of the family around, or do you still communicate with them?
He only has one sister still alive.
Okay, gotcha.
His one, let me see, Ruth Anna died several years ago, and Mom and Dad are gone.
Right.
So, he only has Blanche. She's actually my age.
Okay. Yeah, so you guys were, when you were coming up in Coopersville and Battle Creek and stuff like that, were you pretty tight with his side of the family as well?
Very tight.
Yeah.
Very tight. His because I didn't have a father when I was a young lady. His dad became my dad. I was very close to him.
Right.
And Mom, I was actually divorced when Mom died, but I was there with her.
Yeah.
Not at the end, but I was there, and like a week or so before, and she went to be with the kids. Dell's kids, and she died there with my son.
Wow. Yeah, and that's where, you two were, in 1954, you and Dell were married at their house on 48th Avenue, correct?
That's right.
Yeah. And and your brother lived over on Main Street in Coopersville. Right. And so, it was a very small world that that's what I always find interesting about this story. And I know it so well because I live in Michigan, so I know exactly how small these towns are.
We could not afford a wedding, so I borrowed a wedding gown, and it was funny because Chuck had a suit, but it wouldn't button because he had gained a few pounds. And,
I know that struggle, especially after being stuck in the house with COVID.
Hasn't it been terrible? Terrible. But anyway, so we were very poor kids.
Right, but you made it happen. I've seen those. There's some great. I think there's some great photos.
We were happier than after he made it. Professionally, we had a lot of fun.
Right.
When we had nothing.
Yeah, there's lots of as soon as you go from being just playing music for fun to now you have to produce something, that's probably a lot of expectations.
The struggle is very, very difficult.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm sure that a lot of that led to the alcoholism and just traveling. He would travel sometimes 200 days out of the year. He would be gone in the beginning.
And he didn't like airports, I hear, so I'm sure.
He hated them. Yeah, hated them.
What, other than music, and you said that he spent a lot of time at home, what's something that would either make him really happy or, I know it's a very broad question, but, is it stuff where, did he watch TV a lot, or did he have shows that he watched?
No.
No, he would drive out in the desert and listen to Hank Williams.
I think music. Yeah.
Shoot 22s, and he liked to do that.
Wow, that's
cowboy
but
life.
He really had no hobbies. No hobbies.
No time for hobbies. He had to write music.
But even before that, it was always music and writing. Yeah.
Yeah, so you said he would go out to the desert and just shoot 22s and listen to Hank Williams, huh?
Yep.
He loved that. He loved the desert.
He'd take us kids and drive out there and shoot cans, and that was great. And that was the whole day.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah. Looking back, just on his career, is there any point that you think is like your favorite? I mean, are you able to look at his catalog and pick out something that you like the best, or is it too hard?
You know what? I really liked and respected all of it. I always thought he was somewhat of a genius in that his ability to wake up in the middle of the night with a song idea and sit on the edge of the bed and write lyrics, and everything. But I don't think there was any one thing that, no, not really.
Wow. So he'd just wake up in the middle of the night sometime and just have something in his head.
Many times. He'd be sitting there and he had a pen with a light on it and he would be writing.
Wow.
Even I remember driving out to the desert to go shooting, out by Victorville, and he would do that. He would just have a pen, or he'd write stuff down all the time, all the time.
That's amazing. When I wake up in the middle of the night, usually I just eat food or something. Or just, it's about all I can muster up. So it's pretty impressive. But it just shows you his how his mind worked, where he was always just kind of twisting around ideas in his head. Was there ever a point where he said, "Hey, I might not want to do music anymore. I'm just kind of sick of it"?
Yeah, I heard it.
Yeah.
He wanted to go back and pick strawberries. He didn't want anything. He just wanted to be ripped up Levi's and just lay around.
Right. And why do you think that was? I mean, what at what
just
point in his
the pressure
career?
of the work, all the pressure of the work.
Yeah, and then and then later on, obviously, Dell had this weird career where he had all these big hits, and then the 70s came. Music changed. All this prog rock came in. For better or worse. Then Dell hit this kind of like the oldies circuit, where I'm sure, you're getting paid, so you're not going to turn it down. But he was kind of like bundled into these like oldies packages that I always thought he was kind of not too good for. But he's such a great songwriter that just billing him as, hey, this guy who used to write songs. I always kind of look at that and go, man, he should have gotten more credit for the stuff he was writing at the time. And then eventually that did happen, though, because he recorded some of those later albums. Was it with Tom Petty or Jeff Lynne that recorded those for him?
Yep.
Right, both of them.
Right. That's huge. And you said that Jeff Lynne came over to the house. What do you recall about that?
That was the time we went in the desert. I don't know if you heard the story about going out into the desert. That was just kind of a fun time.
Right.
They thought we were Patty Hearst.
Oh, jeez.
You didn't hear that part of it.
No, I did not know that part. Yeah.
Well, we went out. Jeff, of course, in England they don't have guns, and we had 22s and things. So we never anything more powerful.
Right.
But anyway, Dell wanted to take him out to Texas Canyon in California to go shooting, and Kim and I had been in the pool, and so we had our bathing suits on, and we just grabbed our beach towels, and Craig and his friend Mark and Jeff and Chuck and Kim and I, we had a carload that we drove a big black Cadillac, Dell did. And we drove out to the desert, and the guys are shooting and everything, and we girls are laying in the sun. And then we went to leave, and there was a big was there a helicopter?
Yeah,
helicopter landed, and then
two sheriffs.
the police cars, they had us completely surrounded. And Jeff thought Dell had staged this because Dell was always doing stupid things. And anyway, the guy came up, approached the car with a gun pointed at us and everything, and they said, "Put your hands on the dash and slide them over and open the doors." Well, I'm sitting in the middle, so I'm shaking my boots off. I put my hands on the dash. But anyway, then they wouldn't let us get out of the car, but they wanted to know what it was, and finally we said, well, we're just a family. We came out here to shoot the rifles. Our friend is from England and he's never shot, and blah blah blah. And then we said, well, why are you doing this? What happened? And they said Patty Hearst was seen in the area, and they thought in her gang, and they thought I was the Harris woman. My daughter was Patty Hearst, and the other guys were all part of the gang.
So Patty Hearst, Jeff Lynne, and Dell Shannon were all in the vicinity, and you guys were just there hanging out. So,
yeah.
I'm telling you, well, Jeff went home and told this story in England, and it was in the newspaper over there.
I'm going to dig around and find that. So.
Yeah, I can't. I wish I knew what year that was. I don't know.
Right.
But
I would guess 76, 77.
Okay, so this is.
I was still in high school.
Oh yeah. And Kim, I think Kim was about 16.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, maybe.
That's great. And then I know that you played ping pong with him too, right? When he came over to the house.
I played Pong when Pong first came out, the first video game.
Right.
It was at the Cherokee Studios, and I was playing him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, that's so cool. And then that's
what I mean. It was just part of the friendship. It was like they were just normal people.
Right. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, hey, ELO, you know?
I almost got like, wow. Yeah. Like, well, it's Jeff.
Right. I almost got arrested with that guy. And then one last thing that struck me last time we spoke was that you tell these great stories about Dell just constantly writing, wake up in the middle of the night and writing down these great songs. And, you told me last time that you felt he was trying to, like, I don't want to say like prove himself, but almost like validate being a musician for a career. Why do you think that is? And who is he trying to prove himself to him?
I think his parents, his father really would have much rather he be a football star. And he always used to when he was a kid and would go out and do a gig, and when he was still living at home, he would come home and lay the money he made on the dining room table to show his dad that he was able to make money with his music.
Wow.
And I always thought that was kind of strange, but he never felt he deserved the success he had. There was always something about him that thought he wasn't good enough.
Right. He was humble, you know? And,
very humble.
He could have used a little ego. Yeah. I mean, most rock stars have these massive egos, and you have humble Dell over here.
Yeah. But he never could believe that it happened, and that he was, I don't know, I almost felt like he didn't feel worthy. I wrote him a letter one time as he was going on the road, and I stuck it in his suitcase. And I told him how proud I was of him and what an incredible talent I thought he was, and how I admired that, because I get wonderful ideas, but in the morning they're gone.
Yeah.
Or if I get inspired to say something exciting or good, I forget about it. And I could never remember how, or I could never put it through my head, how he could get the idea and then follow through with it.
Right. I've been watching.
And not forget it.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of stuff about film directors and writers talking about being creative. Yeah. And that's the main thing they say is, like, the idea, at first it just has to be in your head, but then eventually it has to actually exist. And you have to have the work and the drive to actually make something happen. And it's funny when you're telling me that story about him waking up in the middle of the night and writing down the lyrics and the song stuff. There's a comedian, he passed away, Mitch Hedberg. Mm-hmm. He has a really funny joke where he said, sometime I'm in bed at night and I think of a joke, but if the pen is over on the other side of the room, I just have to convince myself it's just not that funny of a joke, So it's kind of that thing where, Dell never...
He always made sure that pen was on his nightstand.
Right. Yeah, so that just shows that he was just ready to work, and that's that kind of that blue-collar Michigan thing in him, where it's you're born and raised to work hard kind of a thing.
That's right.
Yeah, and
definitely were.
Right.
We all had that.
For sure. But this is like I said, I could probably sit here gabbing forever. So, was there anything that I didn't ask that you've been wanting to say about Dell, but or I guess I should say, never had the chance to say?
Oh, there's a lot, but I won't do it.
It's a loaded question, I'm sure. There's it's such
very
a long.
much
I mean, you were with him for all the way
31 years.
Right. Yeah, that's a long time.
Right. There's a documentary coming out about him. I don't know when, but I'm kind of anxious to see it.
Right. And so, do you know what the name of that is yet?
I do not.
Oh, good. Well, hopefully they do Dell justice.
I hope so.
Right, and
I hope so.
Were they able to talk to both you and Craig, or just you?
Yes.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and they talked to Kim, and they talked to everybody.
A lot of people.
A lot of people.
Oh, wow. So this isn't. Yeah. So they're really doing their homework then.
Yes, oh, they are.
Oh, yeah.
It'll take a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they really, I mean, they came into my house and they had 7 cameras and lights and everything, and I was in shock.
Wow. Are they from the United States or the UK?
I think they're from here. Yes.
Okay.
But they've been to London interviewing people for this documentary too.
Wow.
They've been all over.
No kidding. All right. Well,
Yeah.
I've been waiting. Finally, they put out a documentary on the Everly Brothers not too long ago, and I was like, man,
Okay.
now we need one on Dell. So
They showed us cuts from 2 or 3 of their movies they did, and they're fantastic. I mean, what we saw.
okay, so they know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. Yes, definitely.
Great. Hopefully it'll be back to normal here soon, and we'll have a nice new Dell movie to watch, and everything will be peachy
That'd
keen.
be great.
Well,
Okay, then.
thank you so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure talking with both of you. Really, it's
Thanks,
amazing.
Rich.
All right.
Thank you
lot.
so much.
Thank you. Take care.